On this episode of the Cyndágo podcast,
with special guest Mark Fishbach, better known as Markiplier.
Superhero movies, sound effects, the horror genre, and nasal gastro tubes. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Cyndágo podcast. I am one of your two hosts, Manhole the Great.
And I am Lazy Minister. I use your thing. I use your thing. I can't remember why. What was it? Yours was Rusty Minister last time?
Yeah, Rusty Minister.
I'm Lazy Minister, I guess, this time.
That's cool. I mean, hey.
It just came to mind. Like, I was put on the spot, and I was like, oh, shit. And then I just stole your idea.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That just means it was a good idea.
Well, yeah, it's flattery.
What's the saying?
The quote?
What's the saying? Copying is the laziest form of flattery. That's probably what it should be.
Plagiarism is the sexiest form of flattery.
Yeah,
flaggery. I don't know. Anyway,
hashtag, if just to prove that you actually started listening to this podcast. Hashtag sexy plagiarism.
Hashtag sexy plagiarism. Blow it up, guys. Tweet at Cyndágo, CYND. If you don't know how to fucking spell it, why are you
come on, you're already listening to the podcast.
But it's at Cyndágo on Twitter.
Yes.
And that's hashtag, what is it, Ryan?
It's hashtag
sexy plagiarism.
Sexy plagiarism. That's it. I forgot.
You immediately forgot.
My brain is just not on par with the usual shit. Hey.
Well, we've been working out, man. We're exhausted.
Yes. I'm actually really excited because I'm a big boy. We've been working out with
I'm a medium-sized boy. We've both got our respective pudge that we could kick out the door.
Mark is a good personal trainer.
He is.
And more than that, he is our guest this time on the Cyndágo podcast.
He is our very special guest, and I know a lot of you listeners are going to be really, really excited because most of you might have heard of Ryan and I through this great man.
Yeah, definitely most of you. I don't think there's question about it.
Yeah, so today we interviewed him, and it was actually a lot less of an interview than it was just hanging out. You know? He actually was featured on Ear Biscuits, the Rhett and Link podcast, and after listening to that, it's like, how do we follow that?
You can't really follow it, but like what I never really listen to their stuff. I always have to watch because they upload video versions of their podcast.
Yeah.
And that's
Good
usually what I watch,
morning.
just because they're such charismatic people. Definitely Link.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like both of them. They play off of each other great. Like another duo I know of that's sitting in this room.
Huh? Who?
Us, stupid.
Oh, yeah. Well, should we just, I don't know, should we just go to the interview now?
Well, I wanted to finish what I was saying, and then I promise, guys, you're going to hear his sultry voice.
Antsy
I know.
Shh. I'm jumping.
I know, guys.
Down.
I know.
Ooh,
but what I was saying
is
what I brought up their podcast because I highly recommend that you go listen to it on SoundCloud, the Ear Biscuits podcast featuring Markiplier. He answers pretty much every like hard-hitting question about his life, his background, his start on YouTube, what it's like to be a Let's Player. They do a great interview. But if you guys want to hear us sit down with Mark and just talk about our interests,
you're about to listen to it.
Yeah, this is the best podcast this is the podcast for you.
Yeah.
So just like put on a first person shooter or whatever video game you're playing. If you can put it on mute, throw it on mute. If you're driving, what else could they be doing?
Driving down the road, you could be working out, getting all buff and shit.
Buff as fuck.
You could be waiting for something to get out of your microwave. I
mean, if you're microwaving something for over an hour, this is
the perfect podcast for you. Or if you're leaving something in the oven, or even best, if you're in a hot tub and you happen to have a waterproof case with you.
No way.
Listen to the podcast and just let your muscles relax in that warm, saucy water.
Genius! Woo! I am so excited to have this interview start / hanging out. So, guys, I'm sure you're already pissed off that we haven't cut to it. So, here we go. We're going to cut to it right now. This is the Cyndágo...
Count up 10.
9.
8.
7.
6.
Can we say it at the same time or what?
5.
4.
3.
4th.
2. Fucking start. Okay, and now greetings to the one and only Mark Fishbach. Welcome, Mark.
Also known as Markiplier.
Oh, yes, also known as Markiplier. If you haven't heard, which you probably have because that's the reason you're listening to this podcast, Markiplier does Let's Plays, or Mark Fishbach does Let's Plays as Markiplier. You recently had a little debacle.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Debacle.
That's a good word, right?
It was an interesting timing more than anything because of when and where it happened, because I was just flying back for a weekend for my mom's birthday. And on the day of her birthday, she walks in the door, I say hi, take some pictures, and half an hour later, I'm doubled over in pain. Just completely out of the blue. And I thought I just needed to lay down or something. And then another half an hour later, I was like, okay, I need to go to the hospital. It was that bad.
Because I just remember looking at Instagram, it was like, hey, this is my mom.
Again?
Oh, hey, I'm in the hospital.
Exactly.
It was a weird transition.
Yeah,
my brain didn't really process it.
So where was the pain exactly?
Well, I felt it in my liver area, like right below the rib cage. So we thought it was gallstones because my mom had gallstones as a child, and what I was describing, and she's a nurse. She thought, oh, he must have gallstones. Take him to the hospital, he'll be fine. And it wasn't. It wasn't gallstones. It wasn't anything that they thought it was going to be until they did a CAT scan of my abdomen, and they found that I had an obstruction. Now, what the obstruction was, they didn't know. They couldn't tell from the CAT scan. All they knew is that one of my intestines was closed, and there was a big backup. And that's gross by itself, but the only way that they could get the backup unclogged without doing surgery and without knowing what was causing it was just to suck everything out from the other end. Ooh. And that's where the NG tube comes in. And it's really disgusting. I'll save it, the gritty details of that for later.
Why save?
Oh, because I promised on my gameplay that I wouldn't talk about it because people wouldn't look at me the same way if they knew
that's good.
what I went through.
That's good.
Because you've had an NG tube before.
I have, yeah. When I was a kid, I had a hernia that swole so big they had to get stuff out of my intestines because of it. So yeah, I've had one of those when I was a kid.
I won't probably have to have anything up my butt till like.
It's not up your butt.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Nasogastric. Through your nose into your stomach.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you guys have ever had a flu swab where they stick the cotton, like the cotton swab down the back of your nose and it touches the back of your nasal cavity. It's the worst feeling, but imagine that just going forever, all the way down to your stomach. Now,
that just seems like I had the misrepresentation of, for some reason, what you guys were talking about. Oh, it's disgusting. I just thought butt, but that sounds more uncomfortable than if something was stuck up my butt.
I would rather have had a tube up my butt.
Well, we know. I mean, obviously, you'd much rather.
I would much rather.
Pretty much in anything going on right now, you'd rather have a tube up your butt.
Well, just like during this podcast, why isn't there a tube up your butt?
Yeah, why aren't these microphones up our butt? There's really a lot of bass from our butts.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
Sounding like Charlie Brown adults, which they're doing a Charlie Brown, like, not remake, but it's they're bringing Charlie Brown back with like a new 3D style.
Yeah, I saw the movie trailer.
Like, they're just bringing back so many things. The other day they announced a live action Winnie the Pooh. They announced a live action Mulan movie, Disney. Wow. And it's like, yeah, they've announced these things and it's kind of ridiculous. I don't understand why there's such a need to not create original content. Disney has a big enough platform to where anything they create originally could kick off, but I guess they're just really focusing, like with Cinderella and Maleficent and Into the Woods, they're just focusing on remakes, and I honestly, it's kind of bugging me a little bit.
The Disney Renaissance was such a climactic part of the Disney legacy, and I think that going through and making, I think it's too early to remake these movies. I always think that whenever there's like a classic movie that comes out, within maybe 50 years, there's going to be some sort of rehashing or a remake or something. I didn't think it would be done this soon.
Yeah, they're also doing Beauty and the Beast. Live action with So
I think special. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just saying. I don't know if it's just them being greedy, as some would say, but I think that's an easy answer, is that they just want to make money off of it. Because you talk about the Disney Renaissance, and it was a great period, and like how a while ago, before VHS existed, there was no way to get these movies again. Like the movies that existed when they were made, like the old Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. There was no way to get those, so unless they were played in a local theater, just so happened, people couldn't see them. So when VHS came out, it brought these movies back into people's eyes and into children's hearts. And that was one generation ago, pretty much.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, they're doing it again just for one more generation right now, and they're bringing all these things back in a different way.
Yeah, because the effect that they had on people when they first saw it, it wasn't only a magical tale. It was amazing animation for the time.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing. So they kind of want to copy and paste that same mind-blowing effect with more up-to-date graphics.
Unfortunately, though, like when I watch these movies, the graphics don't always look so up-to-date. Like I saw Maleficent and I wasn't really like blown away. Like I'm like, this was Disney in some aspects. It's just... I don't want to be the person that says, oh, they should have just left it with the classics. But I don't know, like, the classics look beautiful on their own. And then when you bring it into real life, I think it takes away some of the magic that the animation placed into the, our hearts as children. And maybe that's just me, being old or older. And like the kids now, they loved Cinderella. They loved Maleficent. They loved all these movies. So, what do I know? The kids are loving it.
Yeah.
And that's really what they're going after. But it just, I don't know, the animation style like that Disney had, especially with Mulan and definitely Winnie the Pooh, just seems like I don't feel like it would work as well in live action, but it is bringing it to a new audience. It's just, I think I'm just bitter about the whole thing because it's like you want to keep the childhood memories that you have as they were.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Winnie the Pooh turn into a real life bear talking or something like that. It just, I don't know, or Mulan. Like I was so used to Eddie Murphy as the dragon, and I think live action, it would seem too goofy to have like a talking, wisecracking dragon in a live action movie.
There's something so personal about these kids movies to us when we were kids. So it's really like they are, stepping the wrong territory to us personally. It's like a travesty onto us. It's like, man, I grew up with this. How can you do this? Yeah. That's what I think. That's a derivative of that.
Yeah, but it's a problem to have nostalgia goggles sometimes. I mean, not to say you're wrong. I mean, I would completely agree. But you also have to keep in perspective that the animation was done back in that day because there was no other way to bring that kind of action and adventure and fantasy to life. They couldn't do live action back then because it wouldn't have worked. There was no way to bring it and make it be as amazing. So I think they could have done animation again. They could even do 2D animation like they did for Princess and the Frog, and it would have been beautiful and great.
Was a great movie.
Oh,
I
loved
that movie.
Yeah, or they could have even done like they've done with Tangled and Frozen and Big Hero 6 and whatnot, and they could have made something really spectacular in 3D animation. So I feel like they're trying to play all fields because they can obviously make new IPs and they can make new characters and bring new stories, but even these new stories are also retellings of older stories.
Oh, yeah.
Big Hero 6 is a Marvel property.
Yeah.
And they just used it, and it was a very obscure Marvel property, but they still brought it to life and made it big. So it's their stories. It's totally in their right if they want to retell it one more time in a different way.
You came up with Marvel with Big Hero 6 is a bit of a jump, but like with Marvel versus DC, like talking about movies, not talking about like the different heroes or whatever, I think we can all agree that Marvel is doing a better job at marketing and at least presenting the superhero world and feel to an audience than DC has been.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and people can jump in and be like, yeah, but The Dark Knight. Yeah, The Dark Knight was a great cinematic movie, but I wouldn't call that like a superhero movie. It was a drama. A drama about a guy just as bad as that, but, it was a drama at its heart. But like all these recent movies, and then you hear like DC, they're going to do, Batman versus Superman. I'm not sure what to think. I'm kind of holding off, like hating on it because I haven't seen it, and I'm a big on don't hate on it until you've really seen it, especially when it's such a big movie like this. But I'm kind of worried because of the way that they've gone with Superman, especially in the past movie.
Yeah, I mean it's strange because when you think about the history of these movies, like before, I think probably before Spider-Man was the dark ages of superhero movies, and. Like, say what you want about Tobey Maguire, but like the first Spider-Man movie was the first time it actually felt like a superhero movie that
was
fit.
a great movie.
Yeah,
my favorite Spider-Man is still the second one though.
I do like the second one. Yeah, the second one was really good. And what was more interesting to me about that is before that, I only remember DC movies. Before that one time, and then after that it was Marvel. But all the ones that I remember were just Batman over and over and over again. Batman, Superman, Batman, and it just bounced between those two without getting anywhere else besides that. So I mean, DC has some strong characters and some strong stuff, and I think they're probably trying to work towards the Justice League like Marvel did with Avengers. But I don't know. I just don't have as much of a connection to DC characters as I do to Marvel characters.
Yeah, just Marvel characters, they're presented, at least in the cinema, as now just being more fun. Batman back then, even with, even with the bad Batman versus Robin or whatever, they still had this fun presence. While albeit that may have been like too fun of a presence.
Yeah, they made it into a kids movie.
Yeah.
Who directed that?
Schumacher.
Yeah, he wanted it to be a kids movie so badly
that
he just thought comics were for kids, so he must make it a kids movie.
Yeah,
it was just kind of ridiculous.
And I don't have a problem with the darker aspect of Superman or Batman, because Batman is a dark character, but it just the tone has been the same for DC, and it's like they're just trying to not steal or take, but keep the same tone that Christopher Nolan placed in the Batman universe. But I feel like that's a tone that only he could make, because Zack Snyder tried to do it with Man of Steel, and I don't think he pulled it off because it looked darker, because the color grading was darker. But like as feeling darker, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just it's a bizarre world to think that taking things like fantasy seriously can be bad at times.
Yeah.
And when Marvel does it with these characters, and I think Marvel does it in a weird but cool way, in that these characters can have dark moments, but so long as like they fight against it with humor sometimes. Like, I guess Tony Stark would be a great example of that, because he has really dark demons that he fights a lot about himself and his own personality, but he has this aloof sense of just, I'm better than everything else.
I mean, it was a dark story. It was about a guy selling like warheads and stuff to terrorists.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it, and and then he can joke about it. But yeah, they do deal with dark subjects. But I know like Avengers 2: Age of Ultron is coming out. Daniel, are you? I don't know if
I don't really care about.
I
don't really care about any of this. Like, I mean, this doesn't interest me that much. It just never really has. I don't know. I mean, I like that. I like the flashiness of the movies, but it seems like when I watch an action movie, all I see is what goes into it. I'm never enveloped into the story. Like I'm jaw dropped at the special effects, but that's pretty much where it ends.
I don't think that many people are like they have. I don't really believe most people are really into the story as much, because I don't know. I think when people saw the Avengers, I think it was more of the fact, holy shit, they actually kind of pulled it off. It wasn't a shitty movie. They pulled this off. And I don't think anybody, because when the Avengers first was announced, I was like, how are they going to balance all these characters when Spider-Man 3 tried to do the same thing? Because it was going after Spider-Man 3, and Spider-Man 3 was so infamous for just kind of ruining the franchise with bringing in too many characters. Not just bringing in too many characters, but the story was just off, as well as the presentation of certain villains and stuff. But I think that it is a feat that they actually pulled something off with that and created such a large fan base, and it is positively looked at. But also it's bringing about this thing of so many sequels, because Marvel's producing so many spin-offs and stuff like that. And now, because Disney also owns Marvel, Disney's doing the same thing with Star Wars. And I know you have more of a connection with Star Wars.
Yeah, I like Star Wars.
Yeah, are you excited about the new one coming out?
Not really.
No? Are you afraid?
No, I just haven't looked into it that much.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think I'm pretty content with leaving Star Wars, like my Star Wars fandom, like in middle school and before that. Like that's where I'm gonna leave it, because I have one of my best friends is a huge Star Wars fan, and he reads like every book that's come out, every spin-off universe, everything, and he's a huge fan. But he even says it just doesn't. It'll never match up to that original feeling I got when I saw Episode 1, 2, and 3 in theaters. And I mean, for our generation, that was the Star Wars that I enjoyed. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna see it, and who knows? Maybe it could spark back into me running around the backyard with a toy lightsaber.
Yeah.
But that's all it was to me.
Well, yeah, but there's also, like I said before, nostalgia goggles about that. But that's special because Star Wars for a lot of people was just the first experience of the possibility of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Because people knew about sci-fi, and sci-fi was done before, but not in such a grand scale where a whole universe was built around and all these special effects that people had never seen before, and the imagination that went behind it. It blew people away in that there literally was nothing there for it. They popped their sci-fi cherry with Star Wars, and then going forward from that, it was done over and over again. So now it's harder to get the same sense of wonder out of anything if you've seen it done in so many ways. And occasionally you'll get a gem that's like, this is really amazing and really cool. But even if it's like the coolest thing in the world, it still won't live up to your expectations because the field is saturated and your mind is saturated with sci-fi.
That happened in childhood. I mean, it was already saturated. You just can't beat what I loved in childhood.
Yeah, because I mean, more like sci-fi movies are coming out like almost every month now, and it's you know, you said Star Wars started out, you know, pretty much the Big Bang of sci-fi, and now it just seems like it's caught up in the sci-fi tornado. When it's like you see when you saw a lightsaber back then, it was fucking awesome. Now when you see a lightsaber, it's like it's just another laser thing that I've seen before. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from with that. Yeah, but I'm also interested to see, again with the Avengers whole thing, if they can pull it off, if they can really bring Star Wars back to the fans, because I mean it has such a huge fan base that I think it can't just be all right. I think it either will have to flop or do really well. I don't think it's just going to be it was all right. Yeah, because it has such a huge fan base behind it, as most things.
Yeah, I think it's just another bridge to another generation. It's just bridging a generational gap, just like the 1, 2, and 3 episodes did.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be all right. And for rather simple reasons. And say what you want about Disney, but they don't like to let things go to chance.
Yeah.
They play it so well.
So safe.
So safe. Not always so safe. I mean, safe, yes, on some of the things, but also they have so much quality control in what they do and so many checks and balances in their systems that whatever they're going to put out in terms of Star Wars, they know the expectation. They know what's at risk. Yeah. And they know that people are probably expecting it to not be as good as they want it to be. So they go in with that attitude. And J.J. Abrams, you know, it's weird that he's directing that in Star Trek, but he did a great job with bringing Star Trek back into the eyes of fans. Yeah, like the movies were all right. I liked them. I liked the movies. I didn't think they were great, but they reinvigorated the fan base just enough because people weren't expecting a lot out of it. Because the next generation happened. Yeah. And then after that, it kind of tanked. Star Trek was on the down. You know, Deep Space Nine, whatever the other ones were that I never even watched. They just went down and down and down. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Star Trek came back, and everyone just went crazy for it.
Thanks to J.J. the Abrams.
J.J.
the Abrams plane.
It just got I mean, because it was Star Trek. You know, we always had these little clubs. Like Star Trek and Star Wars, you know, seemed to have been a much bigger fan base. But Star Trek usually, like when I thought of it, it was just this little club of people that liked Star Trek. It wasn't like a mass thing. At least in my head, that's what I looked at. And then the movie brought upon this whole thing of now the mass is able to enjoy Star Trek because from what I saw, it was filmed differently and it had a different feel than the other Star Trek. It was made for a mass audience, of course, because it was for a movie. But as a Star Trek fan, like you say, like it was all right, but did it live up to the whole like exploration and stuff like the original one?
No. Look, obviously the first movie was not about exploration at all. It was, but they kind of had to do that because they were reintroducing the character to everyone. They had to start from the beginning again, and with doing that, they led up to the point where exploration. Now, I was hoping that the next movie was going to be, hey, exploration, but no, it was kind of the same, more action, death-defying antics, you know, struggle for survival, which is fine, I guess, but
a twist that didn't really. Was when it wasn't really a twist.
Yeah, and it was just like, all right, cool, but that's not the feel of Star Trek. But with Star Wars,
it is adventure. It is
adventure, but they don't need to start from the beginning again. Yeah, that's the key. Like they start from a point where everyone already knows the whole story that they know is done. So now they can just move forward. And hopefully go with the same feel of what Star Wars was.
That's what I kind of like that they're doing. They're not like remaking it or retelling it or like telling it from a different perspective or something like that with at least the main trilogy. They're actually like continuing the story. So those of, you know, they can't be like, oh, the new Star Wars, the new story, don't watch that. Like people can like watch them in order, and then they can tell people, you know, you don't have to watch the new Star Wars. I mean, even though it is a continuation, you can watch it if you want, but it won't affect the original films. Yeah. Even though like the editing of the original films, I don't know. I don't really have a feeling about it since I never really went out of my way to buy them. But do any of you have like an opinion on like the re-edits and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, when they went back and like the CGI and stuff. I mean, I thought for the time it looked much better than puppets, but I don't know. There was definitely a big difference. Like I went back and watched all the movie mistakes and all the comparisons between the original and the new cut. I think it was definitely worth doing, but now watching it, looking back, it's just as bad. I mean, the CGI back then was so poor in quality compared to what it is now. They might as well not even have changed it.
Yeah. I'm interested to ask because we've been on the subject of movies, but this is something in movies that I I pay attention to, but I'm not really like my mind doesn't know how to pick it apart. Like I've been talking, we've all been talking about the like how movies are going, rehashes and all that. But what's like from the ears of someone who does sound design and stuff? Do you just hearing the same sound effects like in horror movies or anything like that? Like, what's sound design looking like in movies now? Does it seem like it's going the same way as we're talking about movies? How it's just all just kind of becoming stale, or are there people doing actually like different things that you see in even movies that you wouldn't expect them?
I mean, sound design and particularly Foley is such a aged. It's like wine. It's aged, and there's these huge sound banks and huge libraries of sounds that have been used in so many movies over the years that were created so long ago when movies first started to have sound and have these lush soundtracks of sound design and music. And there's like a few founding fathers of sound design in movies that are still worshipped today. And really, when you get up to the level of the people that are doing sound for the biggest movies, the biggest blockbusters, it's a handful of guys. It's like all the same guys who are credited on so many movies doing the exact same thing. Like there's this awesome documentary. If any of the listeners are fans of sound design or want to learn more about sound in movies, there's this website called Soundworks, soundworks.com, I believe, and we came to Hollywood, Ryan and I, last summer for a convention for it was called Campus Movie Fest, and we won Best Picture. So we talked about that before, but we came out here and we got to see some panels where people talked, and there was the founder of Soundworks, and he spoke, and I went to his panel, and it was so informative. It was great. I was geeking out the whole time because he had an array of samples of sound effects that were used in a lot of movies. He went into the science of sound a little bit, just to entice people. He showed some clips from the documentaries he's produced through Soundworks, but he himself, forget his name, I wish I remembered it. He himself, he's a sound designer, and he's worked on some pretty big movies, and he decided, instead of trying to become a star sound designer, I'm just going to become the bridge between the people who don't know anything about the art and the people who are making it. So he's created this series of documentaries. He does a lot of posts about what's going on in the sound world. I've been following that for a while now, and constantly I'm being blown away by the technology. Like, it's unreal. Like, they're now designing this new system in theaters, a brand new way to look at sound, where you actually have three-dimensional sound. So it's drawing from like binaural recordings, which binaural recordings are essentially you take like a sculpture of a human head and you put two microphones in the ears. And then what you're doing is you're recording stereo like you would with any other stereo setup recording mics, stereo being two mics at once. But because of the shape of the dummy head, all of the way that the sound is reflecting off of the ears, off of the nose shape, everything is almost perfectly matching the way our ears hear. So when you put headphones on and listen, you're hearing three-dimensional sound. You can actually point at where the sound is coming from. Ugh. And it's amazing. So now this is pretty hard to achieve without headphones on a consumer level. You need to have headphones to pull it off. But they're creating these sound systems where there are speakers on the ceiling, there are speakers behind you, there are speakers all along the walls, very strategically place speakers, and they can mix the sound to these sound fields that they've created. Only specific theaters, few theaters in the world, they're kind of beta testing it right now. I know there's a theater in LA that I keep forgetting to look up. I want to go to it. Where they actually have the sound.
Is it like do films have to be made for
yeah,
that
it has to be mixed. Yeah, it's like okay. It's like I don't know. I know because 5.1 is basic surround sound, but it's some crazy big number like something 0.1 or 0.2 because I think there are two subs. The 0.1 is a subwoofer. But yeah, so I guess that's definitely a long answer, and I really want people who are interested to check out that.
I'm interested in the theater now. I'm not saying I'm a fan, but I do like horror. Yeah. And I think sound design's a big thing in horror, so I'd be interested to see how, like, people who actually care about sound design, not just putting loud noises in your ears, people who actually care about sound design, how they could do that with horror in the theater that you're talking about. That's what came to mind. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's... Oh,
No, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like there's an unfortunate catch-22 with sound design, because for audiophiles, yes, they care very deeply about it. Mm-hmm. But for the average viewer... the only time that they know that sound is doing something is when it's off.
Yep.
Like, and the problem is you have to refine it to the point where it fits. But if you want to add more, you have to make sure the depth that you add and the intricacies don't actually take away from the experience.
Yeah.
Because, like, people go away from a movie and they're like, oh, that one scene was great and that explosion was cool, but they never talk about, like, the sound all that much. Besides, like, a musical score.
Yeah.
They'll say, like, oh, that song moved me. But when it comes to just the sound effects, like, making that perfect and true to what any random person would think would be real life has got to be a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's like real pure sound design that goes into Star Wars and other big franchises of sci-fi trend or whatever I'm trying to say, sci-fi franchises. I can't talk today. Basically, what's going on there is they're actually creating sounds for things that don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're compiling literally hundreds of sound effects at one time over hundreds of tracks for one sound, like the sound of a lightsaber, which is like even an old television.
Or even with Jurassic Park, where you're creating sounds for something that did exist, but
no one's
heard
ever
yet.
heard it, yeah.
And like I think they used like a donkey for the Tyrannosaurus Rex or something like that.
Yeah,
I think I remember
down donkey, tiger, elephant. All
I
that
remember
kind of stuff.
the first time I started like being interested in the way the sound design works is when I bought, I think it was the Halo 3 like limited or legendary edition, and it came with these extras, and one of them was sound design and score and like the Foley that they had to do for certain sound effects.
Yeah.
I think Foley was the big thing that got me into like noticing things in film. When I think it was like 3 probably 4 years ago, I visited LA and took studio tours of like Universal, Paramount, Sony, and one of the studios, I think it was Sony, had a Foley stage that they took us to, and I remember I was just like, now in movies when like little things happen like dirt, like someone's walking, or even as awkward as it is like to make in the sound room a kiss or something like that, like it's like my mind was like, wow, like it's really cool to see like someone do that. And this studio isn't the most luxurious looking studio. It looks like someone that's just cluttered a bunch of junk in a room, at least the one I went to. Have you been to a Foley stage?
No, but I've seen them all over the internet.
Yeah, the one I went to was just like there was like a phone on the floor, there were shoes, and it's just really cool. And another thing with sound design was The Walking Dead. I saw something featuring The Walking Dead, and like when they crush like zombie heads and stuff, they use watermelons and just like kind of tear it apart because it has that crunch, but with the like sound effect. I guess I could have just said squish, but I decided to do that.
That was good. I liked it. The experience.
Yeah. So just someone just, oh god.
Yeah. Well, that's another problem because people, like with sci-fi, people obviously don't know what aliens sound like or laser guns, but the average person doesn't know what a punch sounds like.
Yeah. It's not.
You can fooling them is so easy. So like you were saying, there's this balance where the best sound design is the most unnoticeable sound design. Absolutely. But yeah, like I mean, okay. So Furious 7, Ryan and I saw it last night. But I don't want to get too much into talking about this because we could go on forever about our opinions of it. But
opinions are
definitely it fits into this topic because there were so many fantastic sound effects in that movie, and while they were great sound effects, there were also some laughably obscene sound effects that nobody noticed. Absolutely nobody noticed.
I wasn't paying attention. What like sound effects? Like,
okay, like one thing that literally made me laugh, and I could obviously be written off as a pretentious douche for laughing at this because everybody else is like, nobody else smirked, nobody noticed. But there was this scene where he's like stamping papers. Remember that?
I remember that.
And it sounds like somebody's like fucking like shutting a garage door. Like it was the loudest thing I've ever heard. And I mean, but it was excellent. It was an excellent example of what you were talking about, Mark, because it's a way where they push that sound effect to get everything they could out of it. And nobody noticed that, like, dude, what is he doing? Like throwing a metal barrel down like an escalator? Like, he's just stamping like confidential.
I want to do a parody of Foley artists.
Yeah.
And, like literally like one of the things like how we really get the screams of when someone's being murdered, and it's just them like stabbing someone, just like looking at a screen, going with it. I really want to do that now. I want to write that.
Well, all right, get ready for the next Cyndágo sketch because this one's gonna be.
Yeah.
And guess who we're gonna be stabbing?
Oh.
You,
Mark.
Me?
Yeah,
I figured.
you.
Okay, I was figuring.
And well, that with your channel, you've been wanting to do more of sketch comedy stuff, and even like I don't know if that's only what you've been wanting to do with your channel other than gaming, but I remember like in certain vlogs, you're like, I want to do more than gaming. What else? You can go into that. I want to hear like
because we were just having a conversation before this where we were talking about how there are so many other platforms you want to explore other than gaming. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm always very vague about it because I never like to say something unless I'm definitely going to pursue it.
Yeah.
Because it keeps things open for me. But it goes back to what I did before YouTube, and I tell this story a lot. I tried many, many things before I did YouTube, and I found what I was good at and what I liked. And sometimes I was good at something, but I didn't like it. Like, I'm good at trumpet. I'm great at trumpet. I could have been like a fantastic trumpet player in an orchestra if I really practiced, but I hated it.
Or you could have been like the guy next to the In-N-Out playing trumpet. He was really good.
I bet he was.
he's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it is hard to get into an orchestra, so I bet it was pretty difficult. But it's like I have so many more things that I want to try. And it's not that gaming bores me. Like, it doesn't. I love games. I'll be a gamer till the day I die. I'll be making videos for as long as people want to watch them.
Yeah.
Like, I'll keep doing that because it's something that I love. And just the thing I did yesterday with Five Nights at Fuckboys was awesome. Like, I took shots every episode.
Was that the cinnamon?
Yeah, the
thing
cinnamon
where
whiskey.
you like on Instagram.
Yeah, people thought it was drunk Minecraft, but it was something completely different. But
Are you gonna bring?
yes, that's
okay.
definitely coming
Okay.
back. Very, very definitely
You
coming
heard
back.
it here first, folks.
Well, I said it before.
Shh, no, you heard it here
Okay, all
first.
right, here
folks.
first. But there's like, it's an example of how I still have fun with what I do, just trying new things and doing that. But that's with gaming. Outside of gaming, and one of the reasons why I'm really glad to work with Ryan and Daniel is that Daniel knows music very well. Like, Daniel can compose anything, and he plays the guitar obscenely well, and I'm flattering him like to no end.
I'm blushing.
He's terrible at everything
He's
else,
got a big
but music.
bulge in his pants right
Terrible.
He does have a huge bulge.
I think that's the boil on my leg.
Oh God.
But anyway,
Either way, I'd like to pop it.
Oh, we'll see.
but I want to learn music, and I want to learn the right music. Trying to keep the show going,
Sorry
guys.
about
It's your show.
Thank you, Mark.
But yes,
Yeah.
yes. Continue.
And then besides that, I was actually just talking with one of the people that work at Maker about like the potential for doing other stuff and like moving beyond just the YouTube space. And there's a lot of other YouTubers that are doing that. There's YouTubers that are getting TV shows now, and there's YouTubers that are getting into movies and stuff like that. And I'm not terribly interested in pursuing acting on a professional level. Like, if I had an opportunity to do it, sure, I'd do it, but it's not something that absolutely captivates my attention. But the idea of the creative process behind like making a movie, my own movie, making something that I see in my head come to life in the exact way that I see it and it needs to be made, that appeals to me, and the challenge behind it and how it can be done, how it can be done simply, cheaply, on a good budget and still be obscenely high quality.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see a YouTuber get into that more, because right now I've seen YouTubers direct, the like Viner movies, and I'm not, not to diss the creative process, but they're just not the movies I want to see, and I don't think it's a good representation of the talent that's on YouTube. There are tons of talented people on YouTube, but I don't like when it comes to the movies that are publicized. It's usually the ones that have the big names in them from Vine or something like that just don't really have that much of a plot.
I think that's a money demographic balance there.
True, yeah. But it was what you were saying earlier, like you are a big fan of horror.
Yeah.
I love horror to death.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I know horror. I know horror very well.
Oh, yeah, you know horror very well.
I've seen a great many horror movies lately that just don't impress me to any length.
God,
now you are
so,
speaking on Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
You're so lucky.
Toying with his heart right now.
You're so lucky you haven't had to see the Lazarus Effect.
No, I didn't
Oh
see
my
that.
God!
God, it was so bad. But there's
wow.
one movie soundtrack which I liked that I saw recently. It's a movie called It Follows. It wasn't that great of a movie, but the soundtrack was perfect for this film.
Yeah.
I'd check it out. It's on iTunes. Just play the demos. I mean, I liked it.
The clips you showed me reminded me of 9 Inch Nails dude who did the soundtrack. I can't remember his name right now, but he did the soundtrack for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
And he's done a few.
The original or the remake?
The remake. not
Okay.
the original.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But yeah, like I I'm just sad because horror is just—it's literally all it is jump scares. All it is jump scares now. And I'm sorry, I just get pissed off talking about it.
I completely agree.
It's ridiculous. I want to go see The Woman in Black 2 with my girlfriend. We walked out. We walked out of that movie, and I don't care. I don't like, oh, but Ryan, you never know if you stay to the end. It was a shit movie regardless. Mm-hmm. Everything was a jump scare. And none of the jump scares were caused by the actual entity, were caused by a sense of fear. The jump scares were literally like, this kid's laying down on a bed, and another kid comes up with a gas mask and just goes, boo! And like scares the audience.
Yeah.
Like there's no sense
Did they literally
of that.
Say boo?
I think, it's just a kid going, ah, or boo, or something. It's a little kid. And when you pick apart the shot, it doesn't really make sense. Because the kid's laying on a bed, and the kid comes from, like, above, like, I guess from where the kid's feet were on the bed. So he, like, comes up, and he's like, boo! And he's like, wouldn't the kid have felt the other kid get up onto the bed? Or does the kid have really long legs and just kind of, like, 90-degree angles in over this other kid? It doesn't make
it's
sense.
memory foam, so you jump on
Don't
it, the
disturb your partner.
Yeah.
Foam.
And then terrible sound design things where it's just... For instance, like this woman's just walking through the hallway, then two kids come run by, and it goes, and she's just walking. All of a sudden, it's just like they accidentally run into her, and it's like, well, when kids are running, you hear from a distance just pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter. They just come, they come up. But this was just like boom, boom, boom. Like were they just waiting? Like it just takes me out of the movie because I know the actors of the kids were just waiting behind the wall where the camera's not filming, and just as I said, like horror's gotten so lazy because they know people will just go see any movie where the trailer has 3 jump scares.
Yeah, that feeds into YouTube too. Oh, do you have something to add to that?
I mean, there was something small I wanted to add. Like whenever it comes to horror, and I think of how movies today just aren't scary, there's so many factors at play that my brain just seems to skip over and forget. Like, I'm older than I was when I first saw horror movies, and they scared me senseless. So that could play into it, the fact that I'm not as scared as I used to be. But really what it comes down to is how are they... what is common now? What is scary, like, to everyone? Like, what is scary? And when movies first started coming out, like, what was that first movie? I think everybody who's taken a history of film class has seen where the at the end of it, it's like a chase. It's like a Western chase through a train, and at the end, they actually film the actor, a cowboy.
The Great Train Robbery.
The Great Train Robbery. Yeah, he shoots. For those of you who don't know about it, he at the old very
black
last
and white
scene,
film. Like he's talking old.
I'm talking like 20s, 30s, maybe. I could be totally wrong about the date. Anyway, he points a revolver at the screen and shoots, and it's just on a projector, and audiences lost their damn mind. They thought they were dying. They'd never seen anything like that. So as people get smarter and wiser to more terrible things, especially with journalism just covering every murder that happens, that didn't happen before the 80s, before news became like widespread and everyone knew. That was a guess at a year. But I mean, people are just so desensitized to what is legitimately scary these days. It's so hard to catch people off guard. It's so hard to... Because you're teaching people what's scary in a movie. Yeah. You have to teach them, why am I afraid of this? And you have to give them new reasons to be scary. And there's just so many things that have been done and over with. And okay, I'm not scared of that anymore. What's next?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so what is next? What do you think's next, Mark? What do you think is the next scary...
More jump scares.
Scary thing.
I'll get to that in just 1 second because I'll build off of it, what I was going to say.
Good.
I wanted to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay,
And why that game was... I would defend that game as a good stepping stone in what horror is.
Okay, because we were just saying that jump scares, and it's known for a lot of jump scares.
It's known for jump scares. We made fun of the fact that it was known for jump scares.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear this.
Okay, and a lot of people would probably discredit my opinion because I know horror very well, but I do play a lot of jump scare games, and because people like to see it, and that's why people do it. But Five Nights at Freddy's was different, and people don't see why right off the bat. It more piqued people's curiosities than the fact that there were jump scares. Like, jump scares were an obstacle to conquer to get to the story for a lot of people.
It was the end game. It wasn't...
Yes, exactly. And what people don't realize is that once you get into the game, yes, the jump scares are there. But in the beginning of the game, when there are no jump scares and you're introduced, it was exactly what you said. They're learned to fear a new thing that they've never experienced before. Like, there's never been a game that ties you to one point, one chair, and doesn't allow you to move at all. Amnesia was another stepping stone that approached this subject, because I caught a lot of flack for making criticisms of Fatal Frame 2, which I just finished. I played through the whole game. I thought it was a great story, and I thought for a horror story, it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. It was mysterious. It was dark. It was interesting.
I feel like there's a but at the end of this.
But the gameplay was my biggest problem with it, and people got upset because I criticized one of many people's favorite games.
It's kind of an old game, right?
Oh, it's 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the old Resident Evil, Silent Hill style of controls and whatnot. But the camera was clunky. The camera weapon, which is basically a ghost gun, was clunky in the combat.
Like Ghostbusters ghost gun? Or
Kinda, yeah.
Like, did it shoot like a ray?
You took a picture and it exorcised the demon and their ghost, and they went away.
Okay.
But like that was one stepping stone back then. That was what people were taught to be scared of back then. Amnesia came along, taught people to be scared because there was no combat. Yeah. And before that came Penumbra, but Amnesia I call it because it was the one that actually made an impact.
And that's something like the insanity. What was it?
You went into you could not look at the monsters, and that was completely
such a cool, amazing.
It was a good idea.
Didn't Five Nights at Freddy's 3 have some sort of insanity feature on it, where like the gas was coming in?
Well, the ventilation made you hallucinate, and you couldn't look. If in camera one of the hallucinations appeared, you had to look away really quickly, or else you'd screw you up.
So that's not a completely new mechanic in the game.
No, absolutely not. And I'll get to that in a second. This is going to take a while.
Yeah,
it's going to take a while.
Okay, I'll take a break, and I'm just going to listen. I'll sit back and listen.
So with Amnesia, feel free to question, but with Amnesia, it was a very interesting thing. He just rubbed his leg.
I didn't do that. What are you talking about?
I said he. You don't know who did it. You just outed yourself.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah, anyway. So with Amnesia came all of those interesting mechanics that didn't actually do anything to discredit what horror was. It built on something new in that it wasn't experienced before. And people were taught to be afraid of it.
I never played Amnesia because I went into the last podcast, I think, about this, or the one before. I think it was 3. But just I was a big baby, so I never really experienced all of these classic horror.
I wouldn't have played. I didn't play horror games before this. Like I was terrified to play Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but I learned to love it.
Fans?
Well, I did it because I loved it. Yeah. That's why I first did it as a first game, because I saw a compilation of people being scared at it, and it made me laugh. And then I was like, I want to do that. Like, I got to do that.
but now you're the one. There's no laughing when you're the one being scared.
Yeah, exactly. But the adrenaline is what gets you.
The adrenaline is what got me, because like in a game, there's a game. I think the first horror-esque game. It wasn't really horror, but was it was intimidating. Horror is also intimidating. Like in Resident Evil 5, I remember playing, and this is the first time like of something big with an axe. This is going back to Resident Evil. Like it wasn't really jump scare, like creepy, like atmospheric horror. It was just more like intimidation. Like there's this big hulking thing, and it's like right behind me. I can hear the footsteps behind me. Like stop. Or like the chainsaw guy, I can hear him right behind me.
Yeah.
I wore headphones. I just didn't like that sense.
Yeah.
Like it was. I couldn't handle it.
I gotcha. And that kind of leads into what I was going to say about defending Five Nights at Freddy's. I actually didn't get to my point just yet. Amnesia, I pretty much covered. It was a stepping stone to new elements of horror and teaching new things. With Five Nights at Freddy's, and what people forget, because they get blinded by the fact that there were 2 sequels after it, and it was kind of the same thing. Yeah. But I focus on the first game. I don't talk about the second and third game being evolutions of the genre. I talk about the first game being that, because it's what really caught people's eyes, and people, if fans of Five Nights at Freddy's will say the first one is the best one, and I would completely agree, because when you went in there, and these monstrosities were just there, and it was so bizarre that it was just assumed that everything weird was going on was normal. Yeah, and you were wrong. You're crazy. You're crazy to think that it's not a good idea to have these things wandering around. And the fact that in the first night, like I can't remember if I died in the first night or not, but I think I got through the first night.
You can always go back and check.
Yeah, you can always go back and check. But the sense of dread from just having everything removed from my power was incredible. And the only thing I could do was observe and watch, and I had no idea what was going on, and no one knew what was going on, because no one had ever seen anything like it before. No one had ever seen anything like Five Nights at Freddy's before, and that's why it was good to the genre. Yes, it did have jump scares down the road. Yes, it did get old after like the 5th night. It just became hard. But the first nights that you experience with the story that was completely bizarre, and the idea that these children's toys were murderous, but then you discovered that they're not actually the reason why this place is evil, and the juxtaposition of these horrible things that are trying to kill you, and yet you should have some pity for them because of the story that you discovered piecemeal, and that original drive to find out why and conquer those difficult levels and get to the end of the game, even though it got hard and boring with the jump scares. the fact that the story was there behind all of it.
Yeah.
That's what I admire about the game, because no one assumed that there was this darker story. You know, at first it just started out as these theories. It's like, people were just, it's just a game. But then when you looked into it, there's actually a story within this that like was at least was thought out. It wasn't just like, I'll put this in for fun.
Thank you, Matt Pat, for deducing that for us.
Do you remember you introduced us to Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And you remember I wouldn't play it. I refused to play it.
You flipped over the couch.
I flipped over the couch because like all of a sudden like it was like second night. Like nothing happened. It just went second night. I'm like, I just jumped behind the couch.
Like nothing happened your first night. No. You had the most pleasant first night of anyone who played Five Nights at Freddy's.
So to explain to you guys, because this is a great story. So we had just arrived. Ryan and I had just arrived in LA for the first time to shoot some sketches with Mark.
Was this not the when we came down for?
Was this the second time then?
This was the time where we came down for CMF.
It must have been the second time because
like
Five Nights at Freddy's came out in September or something.
It was the short weekend. Okay. So I was wrong. So it was the second time we went, and we just walked in. We're hanging out, and Mark has this like devilish look on his face.
Yeah.
And he's got this like evil smile, and he just like doesn't even say, he barely speaks. He just he has his laptop already set up. You already had it all set up.
Yeah, because I'd been recording stuff with I think Wade at the time, and already had our stuff down there. So.
So you had a big screen TV. You had the laptop hooked up, and you're just like sit and play.
Yeah.
He's like, just play. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the thing that I hate.
Made me so mad.
I hate it. Then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. What are you doing? Like, stop it, Mark. Just at least help me out. I didn't have any help when I first started out.
Yeah, exactly. That was the great thing about it, because you could just sit someone down and they'd have to experience it. Before everyone knew everything was phenomenal. And one of the things that I actually discovered after I played the game was that Golden Freddy was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Before I just happened in my third night, I happened to have been quote unquote lucky enough to catch a glimpse of the poster, and it showed up in my video. I thought it was a normal part of the game. It was only until after it got posted that everyone was like, and everyone had seen other people play it, that was like, what was that? No one knew what that was. Well, some people did because some people got it, but my videos were like really, really big. So when people saw that and they compared it to other people's playthroughs, they were like, what the hell is that? That was not in other people's games.
Like, did people think you were screwing with them?
I guess so. Like, they might have, but then they discovered that there was all these different smaller things in the game hidden away. And once, like, I'm not saying I don't take credit for finding out the discovery. It would have been found anyway. But that sparked a lot of stuff in the game. And you'll see, like, the playthrough that I did. Like, my first video has something like 26 million views. Second video has, like, 8 million something. But the third one, where that happens, huge views, because people are like, what is that? Why is that a thing? Why are there mysteries in here? Why is this different than this guy's playthrough? Like, what the hell happened?
It adds depth.
It does.
So it's not just like you can't like. It's almost like you can't use the same tactic all the time, because even in the second game, Golden Freddy will fuck you up.
Yeah.
But the second game was more of just kind of like a rage game in my opinion.
It was way too hard.
Because
I mean, how do you follow the first one?
That was
any sort of.
I talked to Scott quite a few times, that he was like, that was his challenge. Like, where do I expand in terms of gameplay? And he did a good job. Like, he made it interesting. But then again,
I like the Freddy mask idea.
It was a good idea. It was a different thing to do while being stuck in one place. And the third one did it again. Like, it changed up the dynamics of it, changed up the gameplay while keeping the same theme. Now, I completely agree that it should end after the third one, because the story's done. The souls have been released and whatnot.
Has he announced a fourth or anything like that?
No, I don't think he will.
I mean, I was waiting for April 1st for like him to just fake announce it, like with a fake trailer or something, like Five Nights at Freddy in space.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be a fan game now about Five Nights at Freddy.
Space program.
Yeah, well,
that'd be cool.
They're making a Machete Kills in space. Like Robert Rodriguez, you heard of Machete.
Yeah.
Then he made a sequel, Machete Kills. Now the third movie is Machete Kills in Space.
I'm gonna see that.
That's like
God damn it. The second one was terrible. Like, it wasn't good bad. The first one was like
good bad,
like
bad
good.
Like B movie good.
Yeah. And then the second movie was just bad.
Did you see Jason X?
No, I've seen clips.
That was Jason in space.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no reason, because I remember one. I stopped watching halfway through because I couldn't take it anymore. But there was this one scene where, you know how it's like sex on a camp was like a theme through Jason.
Yeah.
But in space, it's like, how can you do that? But this kid had like a robot girlfriend that was like trying to make her robo boobs look more human and put these fake nipples on her boobs. And there's like, and then one just falls off and it's just like,
Is it like for comedic effect?
Yes, exactly. It's just there's no other reason for it. The robot put on fake nipples. There's no reason for it, just to put sexuality into this and give it an excuse to do it. And then Jason comes.
The one cool thing that I've only seen the scene that I've never even tried to see the whole movie.
Yeah.
But the one scene that I'm like, that was actually a cool kill was when like Jason comes in and there's this woman working in the lab and he sticks her in like this like liquid nitrogen and then just slams her against the wall. And
face
just
shatters.
breaks.
Mythbusters did a thing on that one. Because it was a really cool thing. It doesn't work that way, but it was real. That was, I completely agree. That was a cool kill in that movie.
Mythbusters is great. And let me just get on a Mythbusters tangent.
I thought you were just going to be Mythbusters is great. Anyway.
But like, I love how they take any idea and then if it doesn't work, they find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
That is what's so great. Like one of my favorite.
Determined.
They're so determined. And one of my favorite episodes that I saw pretty recently was the one that they did based on Breaking Bad. Mm-hmm. And the one that I'd look forward to the whole episode was the one where they actually took a pig and threw it in hydrofluoric acid to see if it would dissolve and fall through the wall. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't on their first attempt, of course not. But then imagine being put to the task of like, okay, well, I have to make this happen. So what chemical am I going to use? And they still can't even get it to happen. They pump it in and they get it to move. They actually make it gyrate, and they try to flush it like with way more hydrofluoric acid that wouldn't even fit in the bathtub, just a constant stream, and it still wouldn't work. It still wouldn't eat fast enough. But I mean, like, come on, like they blow stuff up, dude. Who doesn't love Mythbusters?
Oh yeah.
They're special effects gurus.
I remember my favorite episode was the Jaws special.
That was great
for Shark Week. I loved it. I think. Well, talking about fear, Jaws was the first thing that made me terrified as a kid. Like I was scared of like stupid stuff, but this is like legitimately like something trying to be scary that scared me.
Yeah.
And it was all a fluke on Steven Spielberg's part because everyone knows that it was an accident. Not an accident, but like the budget worked out to where they couldn't show the shark as much because it was just like it just wasn't working the way they wanted it to.
Right.
But that's such an integral part to horror is I'm gonna sound weird, but don't finish your load early. Don't give everything you have so soon because like when everyone does that, like in the beginning scenes, if you show the monster like doing the worst like violent thing, people are like, so that's what the monster does. Okay, thank you. That's what I came for. Yeah. But like with Jaws, like it was just so suspenseful. Mm-hmm. I loved the fact. I just have such a huge appreciation for Jaws because it's like I'm scared of the ocean just as it is because I can't see what's below me, and like to have that aspect because like in regular movies like in a house it's like you can't see what's going on because of the way the camera's positioned, but in Jaws you can't really see the shark because it's underwater or when you do it's an eerie sense when it has an over the head view and you see like this big shadowy figure moving. Mm-hmm. Like I loved that movie just for that. People now are like, oh, it looks so fake,
and then there's the other end of that where they exclude the monster too much, like the new Godzilla remake where they almost leave you without
But that's almost like a different thing because like Jaws was meant to be horror and like hidden, and Godzilla is supposed to be shown fighting. Godzilla is everybody knows what Godzilla looks like. I get and the thing is they showed Godzilla and then they were like, see him, bye.
And then it's my worst part about that movie was when he popped up on the news, like right after the planes were so badass, like I'm like, it's happening, this is it, and then boop, news kid on couch. That's a thing.
I thought that was for comedic relief. I thought it was like the kids just watching this thing on the news. And I'm like, right back. Then it would cut right back to the fight.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It doesn't at all.
I know.
They do that so many times throughout the movie. Like, but it does make up with it with two parts. One part is when you see his spikes start to light up. Dude, does the fire breath for the first time?
I didn't see that coming.
And then the ending part where he. Spoilers! Oh, the movie's been out. If people haven't heard or seen it...
Game of Thrones has been out, and you got mad at me when I said that guy dies.
Huh?
Game of Thrones has been out for a while, but
yeah, but that's like a big thing. Like, Game of Thrones is like a... I don't know.
Which guy? Whisper it in my ear.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
don't remember his name.
That was later in the series, though. So.
That was first season.
Wait.
No?
Wait, which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the
They're whispering right now. They've been whispering. I don't know. Blah 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 blah. Mark doesn't know what he's talking about.
You know what I mean?
And it seems like
First
Mark's
season.
like, no.
Oh,
Okay.
I know. Yeah, I was thinking. Okay,
Okay, now
I
they
got
got
you.
it.
Yeah,
Now
I
they
got
got
you.
it.
I got you.
Yeah.
We got
Okay.
it. You got
Okay.
it. You're commenting on our whisper session
I
there.
don't think. Well, there's a difference between spoiler of like, oh, Godzilla does this cool thing because it's a fight. Like, it's not really a spoiler. I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's
And then
true.
versus like a big character death in something that people have been like watching for years.
Yeah, I guess it's not a spoiler
Or
to
a
know
year.
that Godzilla won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, spoiler alert.
But the details are what make the movie, is like seeing that actual thing happen in the movie.
Yeah, true. Well, his saying it doesn't do it justice, so
Yeah.
watch it anyway.
Oh,
for
Watch it,
that reason.
Watch it, and for Bryan Cranston, because
Yes.
He's so misused. You know,
Watch the first.
it's been said too many times. It's
Yeah.
been said too many times. But I knew he wasn't gonna have a big part when the trailer said "and Bryan Cranston."
Yeah.
That's a little special hint for you, everybody. If the trailer or the movie poster says "and" then the person's name, they're in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
They're just a minor character in the grand scheme of things usually.
that's a shame.
But
damn shame. Yeah.
we're going on 55 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Actually, there was something I wanted to bring up with Mark. So,
Okay.
So Mark, we kind of already started to touch on this, talking about things that you would like to do, and you say you don't want to go into too much detail, and I totally get that. Why do more talk than do, you know? But I know that you tell me that you have all these great musical ideas. You said you played trumpet and you were really good at it. But if you could make music, what would be your first try? Like what would be your first dive into music?
It'd be hard to say because I would want to do it as I hear it in my head and not take stepping stones with like making a song like Chopsticks
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a nursery rhyme and then getting to the point where I get there. Like what I was talking to you earlier before we turned on the microphones was I have all of these songs that I hear in my head, and it's interesting because I don't listen to music on a regular basis. So I draw some inspiration from a very select few sources, but for the most part, I love like the idea of just coming up with the entirety of a song in my head, and I can hear every single instrument, I can hear every note, and I hear these great melodies and these great rhythms and these great harmonies, and I know that I want like orchestras in them, and I want church choirs singing like.
That's what I love.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love. That's why I love the beginning of the animated Hercules movie so much.
Oh yeah. Well, you're talking about a what's it called? A three
Yeah.
woman, the three black women. What? There's a name for that.
I forgot.
Oh man.
For the name of
the name for that specific type of group.
yeah, but for me it was always just like gospelish type.
Yeah,
things.
true.
Blank. It's always like blank and the blankettes.
Yeah, exactly. Something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
either way, like I love the idea that I could create something that I hear. So if I pursue music, I would want to get to the point where I could do that before I do anything else.
Yeah.
And that's just because I'm perfectionist about that. With most things, like with YouTube, you start somewhere. You just start and you do. With music, I feel like it's more, you have to learn to the point where you can start
Yeah.
before doing anything.
Well, you've got a leg up because you have the means to do what you need to do. You're not starting from the ground
So
up.
that's a great thing out there.
Yeah, great sirens.
Sirens.
Living in the city is.
That's our play us off music. That's taking too much time.
But yeah, but seriously, thanks, Mark, for coming on
Yes.
and talking to us.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be here. I hope I covered everything I thought I was going to cover because I always do that where I start a thought.
Yeah.
30
Oh, and
minutes
trail
ago.
off to
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and then afterwards you're gonna think, "Fuck."
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot to say they're fired.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I came here for a reason.
yeah.
You got me sidetracked. Damn it.
Anyway, no, yeah. Thank you for having me. It was fun to talk. It's always fun to talk like this. I like podcasts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Love to have you again.
Yeah. Before we leave, I was just listening. Like the Grim Grumps pulled an April Fools where they put out Toon Grumps, and it was just them talking for an hour and 10 minutes over animation. I love that video because it was
I
just
haven't
them
seen it.
talking.
Was it was a podcast?
It was a podcast. It was basically a podcast with them talking over Ross animating a new music video. So, and I love that. Like, I love just sitting around talking because it's very rare to get that chance.
Yeah. Did they like present it as something like an April Fool's joke? That seems more like a present for everyone.
They said they were going to cancel Game Grumps and they would replace it with that.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Yeah, that was it. It was,
Okay.
but it was a great video. But anyway, that's all I'll say.
Okay.
Because when I do my videos, I'll say one more thing.
Okay.
When I do my videos, I'm by myself the vast majority of the time. So I don't have anyone to have a discussion with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is the most interesting thing that I like to have.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Not talking to people or talking to people?
Having someone to actually like have another opinion with.
Yeah, and like bounce ideas off of. And it always makes for better.
Because I remember like just seeing you play sometime. You got me on a tangent now.
Go.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
We don't have a time.
Because like when you like talk about things, you're just like you'll say something. And you're like, I don't know if that's true. Whatever, I don't care. But like if someone else was there, they could either be like, yeah, I don't know either. Like, well, actually, because that's what Daniel's here for. For me,
I'm a human fact check.
Check your ignorance.
Yeah, my ignorance might just.
And then on the off chance that I make a movie reference, he's like, nope, that's not right. It was this year. I'm like, of course you know that, Ryan. Of course you know that, you damn walking encyclopedia.
Hey,
you walking IMDb page.
That's me. I think you used to do this. I don't know if you do this as much, but like every time after watching a movie, I'll just go to the trivia page.
Oh, dude,
that's why I know
haven't done that for Furious 7 yet, but actually I did a little bit and saw that they did a lot of replacements for Paul Walker, which I mean they weren't that noticeable. Like people joked about seeing them and they're like really obvious. I saw that they did actor stand-ins for like his brother, but the CGI. I think I don't want to spoil anything. So
I know where the CGI was placed. I could tell. It's no spoiler alert for like where the CGI is because it has nothing to do with the movie. Yeah, but the CGI is like actually it is a spoiler because of an event that happens. Never mind. But it's like you can just see him. He's next to like his wife and I guess like not like stepson because that's not his son. I don't think. I don't know the storyline. I don't know the storyline. But like when he looks back at Vin Diesel like. With his sexy eyes, those aren't his actual sexy eyes. That's digital Paul Walker's sexy eyes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but then also like at the end, when he's like holding the son or whatever, you can kind of tell like the actor's trying to hide behind the kid actor because they don't want to show you that it's not Paul Walker. So it just looks like he's like holding the baby, like hiding,
like playing peekaboo with the camera.
Like, oh, you don't see me, do you?
And what they did was they put that baby on a harness and hung it from a crane and then just moved it around. And just CGI
just a hanging baby, just like censoring his face.
That's terrible.
Well, that's dark. Well, if there's any way to end the podcast. I think it would be that.
Well, it's not like the baby died at the end of it. I think the baby's okay, right?
Spoiler alert. Kidding. I don't know. I don't know. Does it? Whatever.
Find out next time.
Yeah, go see the movie. Why are we telling people to see the movie if
God.
you didn't like
the last thing I want to do is plug this movie.
Go see it to laugh at it.
Yeah, if you want to have a good time and spend a lot of money doing it.
Or if you want to get Movie Pass.
Oh yeah, this is Ryan's constant. Look at the time. It's time for Ryan to plug Movie Pass.
Yeah, well, it's great because I've seen let's say 11 to 13 movies within the past 2.5 months or something like that in theaters.
And how much money have you spent, Ryan?
I've spent $70 because like it's a $35 a month. I think
only $35 a month. That's a steal.
No, but like seriously, like this is if you love movies, get this because movie tickets in LA they're $13.75. So what's $13.75 times 11? Say
10.
I don't know.
144.
Yeah, that
something.
That versus $70. Like it saves you money. All I'm saying is if you're into movies, get it because it's awesome. I love it.
If you're within walking distance of a theater, definitely get it.
Yeah,
like Ryan is.
Yeah, I don't know. Just if you're a big fan of movies and you don't want to like just spend too much, just that's my thing. I love it.
Mark looks so entertained right now.
I'm going to go get a movie pass as soon as this conversation is over.
You're making it seem like a plug for an unnecessary product, but it can save people literally like whatever.
We could probably get sponsored by them. I bet it wouldn't be that hard. They're not that big of a company, are they?
No, I think they're out in New York or something like that.
Yeah.
Then all this fake plugging could turn into real plugging, and then everyone listening could suddenly hate us.
I legitimately think it's a cool thing. Whatever. It's because I can go to the movies and just be like, I want to see this, and like I want to go see The Gunman. I didn't feel bad about walking out of it because I didn't waste any money seeing it.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So now I can just not feel bad if I see a bad movie. Whereas if I saw a bad movie, like Furious 7, and I spent money, I'm like, well, that's wasted money. Yeah. But now it's just money. Whatever. It was a bad movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck whatever. You guys are judging me because of. I don't care. Get Movie Pass if you see a lot of movies. I don't care if it sounds like about get it.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But in all seriousness, thank you again, Mark, for coming by and hopefully, guys, we will be putting out a lot more hilarious sketches together, Cyndágo and Markiplier.
Yes.
And I think we mentioned in the podcast on Tuesday that came out right before this one that we are working on getting the perks out. We went on this long apology rant about sorry that it's taken so long, but now that we're all back and we're ready to get to work on that and finish going through all these emails and stuff.
Now that I'm actually home.
Yeah, now that Mark's in better shape.
Good to have you back, Mark.
Not just that, like the conventions after another, one after another.
Yeah,
like,
you almost.
What was more
left us again.
taxing? Yeah. What was more taxing, the surgery or the conventions?
Well, the surgery, obviously. I was in a hospital bed and in incredible pain.
I don't know. I've heard some people have some bad experiences at the conventions. Like, they get the sniffles. That's pretty bad.
Oh.
Like, I could not have the sniffles compared to, like, being cut open. What? You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, he's not making it.
You're right. You're dead.
No, you're fucking right. What? Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the podcast, and also thank you to Mark, which we've thanked several times for coming by, but really, it's really, 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 really awesome that he showed up.
So, Ryan, why don't you go ahead and take us home?